Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is a classic novel, and a story that warns against man trying to play God. It delves into things that man was never meant to do. A mad doctor becomes obsessed with giving life to a corpse of his creation, made from body parts and organs of several deceased people. He wants to make a brand new life, a new person, and thus make himself akin to God. Whether it's because the wrong brain was used, or that his creation could never have a soul like a man should, the monster is a horrible and violent version of what man is, and thus goes on a killing spree before ultimately being destroyed and killed. Again, it's a classic story, and there are several classic movies based around it, such as the Universal version of Frankenstein, the Hammer horror Frankenstein, or even the hilarity of Young Frankenstein. But today, we're going to explore one of the early video games based on the works of Mary Shelley, and see if Frankenstein's Monster for the Atari 2600 is worth tracking down and playing, or if we should leave it alone on its cold metal table, never to be brought to life again. But first, if you like my videos, please leave a like and subscribe, if you haven't already. Once we reach 5,200 subscribers, I will be doing yet another giveaway, so you don't want to miss out on that, especially if you're a fan of Atari. Okay guys, onward to the review. Frankenstein's Monster was developed for the Atari 2600 and released back in 1983 by Data Age. It's a platforming game that mostly takes place on a single screen, although a secondary scene can be accessed by accomplishing your goals while playing. You play as an unnamed character in Dr. Frankenstein's lab, and your goal is to build a wall around his monster before enough lightning strikes give him the power needed to come alive. If he does get the power he needs, he'll pop to life and start approaching the screen in a somewhat terrifying and menacing manner, at least for the time. It's pretty intense, and I have to say, I enjoy the premise of the game. It's wholly unique from what most people would have done with the concept, and, well, dare I say, it works well. The screen is colorful with nice shades of red, green, orange, and blues, giving diversity to each of the three layers of the screen. At the very top, you have Frankenstein's monster himself, collecting the thunderbolts to come to life. While you can't actually reach him or interact with him, well, not at first, you can enter the green platform beneath him when you've collected the brick from the bottom layer of the screen. A ghost will appear from the left and right of the platform, and if he touches you, well, then you'll freeze for a few seconds, wasting precious time. The second layer features spiders walking across the screen, and there'll be anywhere from 2 to 4 holes that will cause you to plummet to the water below. The lowermost layer of the screen features a pool of water in the center, and a log of varying sizes and movement patterns that will allow you to cross. You once again have spiders to contend with, but these ones are white rather than the red from the previous layer, and they will use their webs to fall from the ceiling in groups of either 1, 2, or 3. If the red spiders above touch you, then, much like the ghost, you'll freeze in place. But these white spiders will freeze you only for a brief second, but you'll also stop your momentum when jumping, causing you to fall to your death. Also, this layer is where the previously mentioned brick that you're trying to collect lays. Once you grab it, you must now navigate the layers in reverse order to make it back to Frankenstein's monster, and this is where the second screen comes into play. It seems that beneath Frankenstein's monster is a bunch of small and large bats that attempt to keep you from building the wall around Frankenstein. They fly at you pretty fast and in patterns that are tough to decipher and get around. At first they mostly fly straight down, but later they not only get faster and more numerous, but fly at odd angles as well. This causes you to have to run in zigzag patterns, and while the screen isn't as nice looking as the previous, it offers an intense challenge that is a welcome diversion from the rest of the game. You do this multiple times, with the enemies increasing, the logs becoming smaller and disappearing, and with Frankenstein filling in more and more with color. If you drown 3 times, or Frankenstein becomes completely green, it's game over, and the monster will approach you from within the screen to terrorize you. Again, the game looks great, and the sparse sound effects, well, they sound great as well. They really did a less is more thing with the audio, and I really like it. The sounds of the thunder and lightning makes for great atmosphere, and the sound that plays while Frankenstein is approaching you is really good, and adds to the fact that you failed your mission. Frankenstein's monster controls really well, and is a real challenge, more so than you would ever think. I've managed to wall in Frankenstein only a handful of times, as more often than not I end up falling into the water and dying 3 times while attempting to stop him from coming to life. And it's a challenge that I'm up for, and it's great fun for 30 minutes to an hour at a time. But after that, the repetition really sets in, and there isn't much to do or learn once you master the variety of the game. But mastering it will take most people a good while, I would think. And that's really the only issue I have with Frankenstein's Monster. It can become repetitive and isn't recommended for long play sessions. Well, I think it's good for an hour or less. There is a 2-player mode, but you each wait for your turn and alternate to play, which is kind of boring if you ask me. I always consider these 2-player mode styles to be the laziest of all. But that's just me. The screen with the bats moving can be a little annoying too, at least when they start to push you back, all the way to the bottom of the screen. This is, especially annoying when you've almost gotten to the point to lay your brick. But that's the whole point of that particular screen, and it's a challenge that I think most people should be up for. And once you learn the patterns of the bats, you can usually become somewhat adept to managing it. Overall, I think Frankenstein's Monster is a fun and unique platformer for the Atari 2600, and one that has a lot of charm. And as I said, the ending screen actually does a good job of showing that you failed, and the terrifying monster is now rampaging towards you. I think most people should be able to pick up and play Frankenstein's Monster with little to no preparation, and should get a fair amount of enjoyment out of it. But let's take the game into the Atari Network's pros and cons section and see how much enjoyment there actually is to be had here. For the pros, I have to say that the graphics are nice and colorful, and everything is easy to decipher. The sound, while a little sparse, is ultimately effective, and the game manages the limited resources of the 2600 masterfully. It plays well and presents an excellent challenge that most people should enjoy tackling. The 2 screens couldn't be more different from one another, and that helps to add variety and keep one or the other from becoming too stale for too long. The challenge ramps up nicely while you're playing as well. I also really like the game over screen where the monster comes rampaging towards you. But there are cons that we discussed, and firstly, there's the fact that the game is really only suited for short play sessions. There is a 2-player mode, but it's really not much of anything. The bat screen can also get really annoying when the bats continuously push you back towards the bottom. And when it comes to cons, well, that's all I have. So with all that said, I'm going to give Frankenstein's Monster for the Atari 2600 4 CX40 controllers out of 5. It's a charming and fun game, especially around fall and Halloween, and I think most people should really enjoy it. There isn't much to do once you've mastered the game, but there are little things that will help you to beat it quicker and quicker. Like the holes on the second layer. You can jump down them to beat the game quicker by trying to time your landing on the platforms below. Just trying to do this made the game a whole lot more fun and replayable for myself, and it might do the same for you too. But with all that said, well, I think that's all I have to say about Frankenstein's Monster, and now I want to hear from all of you. Have you tried Frankenstein's Monster? If so, do you agree with my score and assessment, or was I way off somewhere? And what other quote-unquote horror games do you like to play on your Atari consoles? Let me know about all this, and whatever else you have to say, in the comments down below. And please, consider checking out my social medias if you're so inclined, and join the Discord server to chat with other classy Atarians about, well, Atari. There's links to everything in the description below, along with a link to my Patreon. This channel is supported by Patreons and YouTube members like the ones listed on the screen now. With their help, I'm able to pick up and buy more things to cover for the channel and replace equipment as needed. So, thank you all for your support. You rock, and I couldn't do this without all your help. And with that said, it's time to wrap up this horrifying review here on the channel. I've been the 7800 Pro Gamer, a man-made monstrosity built to review Atari games, here at the Atari Network, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. And please remember to stay classy, Atarians.